All right, we should be live. Let me know in the chat if we're live. If we're not live, we're gonna wait for Alex to get us live. In the meantime, hi, welcome to today's workshop. Uh, we are going to wait. Okay, let's see, 38 viewers. Okay, now we're definitely live. Live. All right, cool. Hey, how's it going, everyone? Welcome to today's workshop. I'm Lazar Nikolov. Let me actually get my, yes, we're live. That's awesome. All right, so let's see, how do we do this? This is me. Hi, and I'm going to be your workshop facilitator, person, leader, runner today. I'm a senior DevX engineer here at Sentry, and yeah, I have prepared a really cool workshop today for you all. And it's not going to be like a traditional workshop where I'm doing stuff on the screen and I'm expecting you to do stuff on the screen. If you'd like, you can, but this is more going to be like conversational, I would say. Yeah. And we can see the stuff in the chat. Let's see. Loud and clear. Thank you, Zebra. Yes, we are like, hey, from Sweden. Hello. Yeah, tell us where you're tuning in from. I'm based in Toronto, Canada. We have folks from Sweden. We have folks from everywhere. We're gonna start in like a minute. So we let everyone join. Oh, what is that? Anyone seen this error in prod? Will seek current invalid address. I hate seeing that. Dominican Republic. Hey, how's it going? San Fran, beautiful. But yeah, I have access to the chat, so I'm going to send you the repo that we're going to work in if you want to follow along, but I'm not sure if you will want to or you can. I'm not sure if it's like designed like that, but doesn't matter. Here's the repository if you want to check it out later, later today or during the weekend. Hello from the US, nice. From Mexico, Holland, uh link coping, Sweden. How's it going? All right, yeah, I guess we can. Uh, hey, Serge, hello from the other room. How's it going, man? He's actually here in the office. All right, I think we left everyone enough time, so let's just dive in. I'm gonna go picture in picture, beautiful. Before we dive in, this is going to be recorded. I mean, we are streaming this on YouTube. I see most of you, if not all of you, are watching on YouTube. Yes, all of you are watching on YouTube currently. So it's going to stay on YouTube. If you're watching on a different platform right now, just jump over to YouTube, find Sentry's YouTube channel, and you get to see this workshop or preview it later on. The questions, I see all of you, all of the questions here. So put any questions that you have in the chat. I'm going to answer them as they come in, or I'm going to try to answer them as they come in. We don't have or I haven't planned a Q&A at the end, although we can, if we have a few minutes to spare, we can have some dedicated Q&A session. But yeah, I just want to keep things super casual. We're just gonna like talk. Anyone has a question, puts it in the chat, and we'll talk about it. I can even show it on screen, and so that everybody knows what we're talking about. And yes, your image is gonna appear there. Okay. All right. So today's workshop, we're going to talk about React Native. We're going to talk about Sentry. We're going to talk about performance monitoring, error monitoring, and next level debugging. Okay. Um, how can we approach fixing crashes coming from native layer on Expo React Native project? That is a really good question. Unfortunately, I don't have anything native related, but we are going to talk about issues and crashes in the second part of this workshop. So you'll see what's up. All right. Here's the agenda. This is going to be the agenda. I'm going to spend like a few minutes talking about Sentry in case anyone doesn't know what Sentry is. I'm going to jump and present the demo project that we're going to use in today's workshop, and then we'll get to the two parts: the performance part and the errors part. During the performance parts, we're going to look at the performance insights page in Sentry and what type of data we get for our React Native applications. The mobile vitals are here, and we're also going to talk about tracing as the coolest freaking debugging technique. And you'll see it's for everything. You can use tracing for performance, for errors, everything. Then we're going to go move on to the errors part, and we're going to cause an error into our application. And we're going to look at the issue details page in Sentry and how we can read the data and to understand what the crash is and how we can fix it. And then we're going to start debugging and use breadcrumbs to debug, to see how, in roughly how the user got to that point. Breadcrumbs are literally that. Like every time a user takes an action, they leave a breadcrumb behind, and we get to see those breadcrumbs. It's basically like it will basically answer your "how do I reproduce this" question locally, right? And then, of course, we're going to go into session replay, which is similar to breadcrumbs, but it's like 1,000 levels more detailed. It's actually a session recording feature in Sentry. We're going to look at logs, Seer, Sentry's AI debugger, so we don't even need to fix the bug ourselves. We'll just let Seer fix it. And then at the end, we're going to look at the size analysis feature, which comes in beta next week, and we'll get Max to talk about it. We'll get him on stage. Okay. All right. So yeah, let's get into it. Let me see. We have some questions. Does Sentry report a lot of false positives with crashes ever? What do you mean by false positives? There could be like some errors that, and I know this in a, like web dev projects, in web projects, you might get some errors that are not related to your app, but it could be from an extension or anything. But you usually get those ignored. Okay. And I see Serge also jumping in the chat. But yeah, all right. Let's go on with the program. Sentry 101. For those of you who don't know, Sentry is the next gen APM solution. APM stands for Application Performance Monitoring. And what Sentry does is it monitors and measures the performance of your application, any type of application. When I say any type, I literally mean any type. Like there's an SDK for every framework and language under this sun. It is, as a developer experience engineer, it's overwhelming supporting all of these, but we get the job done. Okay, so regardless of what your backend or front end or mobile is, there's definitely an SDK for it. So what's how everything happens is you install the SDK into your app. The SDK listens for bad stuff happening, okay, like slowdowns and crashes and everything. And then it sends all of that to Sentry so that you can see what's wrong with your app and then fix it later, right? Briefly summarize what an APM solution is. That's it. But it's next gen because we, on top of everything, just like everyone else, we put AI so that we don't have to do all of the laborious investigation, right? We don't have to go through all of the breadcrumbs and stack traces and everything to figure out what's wrong. We use AI to ingest that and spit out the solution and even open a PR. And we'll get to see all of that later. But yeah, that is Sentry. Two things. There's an SDK. You install it in your app. There's a platform. You can use Sentry.io, or you can self-host, actually, and use it for free. Just pay for your servers. But yeah, that's how it works. If you don't have an account, just go ahead and grab one. It's free to get started. The dev tier is also very generous. depending on your on like the size of your app, it can actually be sufficient for you to start, and then you can grow with it. So Sentry.io, that's what we're going to work in. Now, let me show you the demo projects. I built this app, and let me actually restart it. I built this app called AI Recipes. And what this app does is it prompts me to create my nutritional profile. So here's a dietary preference. Let's say that I'm on keto, on the keto diet. Any allergies I might have, like, yeah, let's say nuts and shellfish. Dietary restrictions. I want to do low sugar. I'm 31 years old and I am 86 kilos. And my goals is to lose weight. All right. That's my nutritional profile, or like my profile in general. And the idea with this app is it uses the Open Food Facts database to scan, to like search and get information about any product that we search for. And let's actually show that. So when you open the app, it's Nutella by default. We can just search for anything. I don't know, Oreos maybe. Let's look for Oreos and pick out some of Japanese Oreos. Yeah, let's go with that. And now we'll use AI to see if we can consume this product, and if we can't, for some reason, maybe I'm allergic to an ingredient that this product has, or maybe my dietary goals does not support or allow me to eat this product, and then it's going to give us a recipe that we can make at home. So for the Japanese Oreos, my diet is keto. Here are the nutritional values for 100 grams of Oreos, and it says you cannot consume this product because I'm on keto, right? Reason, yeah, extremely high in carbohydrates, keto-friendly chocolates. Here's the ingredients. Here's the instructions. Make it yourself and enjoy homemade Oreos, right? So that's pretty much the app. These are all of the screens that we have. And the project, I already posted the link in the chat, but if anyone wants me to post it again, if you don't have access to it, let me know. I'll post it. The project looks like this. We have this apps folder. Inside, we have the API, which is the backend. The backend is built with Express.js, and I'm not going to get into it because it's just simple Express.js endpoints. We're going to talk about React Native in this case. But yeah, feel free to dive in and see how I have everything set up. And we have the mobile, which is the React Native project. It's Expo, but it's not Expo Go. It is Expo Dev Build, because installing Sentry and requires you to go to dev build because there's a bunch of native modules that need to run. In order to install Sentry into this project, into your React Native project, you get to use our wizard. So npx Sentry wizard -i for instructions or implementation, React Native. You do this at the roots of the, or inside of the mobile project, and this is what's going to happen. It's going to install the React Native package. I've already done this, so I just want to like fly through these things and not actually do these live because it doesn't make sense. But yeah, here's what it's going to do: install the React Native package, add the Metro and Expo configuration in the respectful files, and then set up the native platforms for source maps, for debugging symbols. So that's Gradle for Android. The Xcode project is going to add a script in the build phase to upload debug symbols. These are important if you want to have actual good stack traces instead of minified and obfuscated. You do need these to upload these to Sentry. It's going to run pod install to install all of the CocoaPods in the Xcode project. Yeah, build credentials in the Sentry.properties files and the environment local, and then it's going to configure Sentry to for the supplied DSN in your layout.tsx file. And that's basically what I did. But then I went in and enabled logs, session replay, and tracing. Okay, and you get to see how this looks like. But let's actually go through all of these files so that we can see everything that's in there. Here's the app.json, right? And this is the Expo configuration, as we mentioned. There's the Metro config here. Here's the get Sentry expo config import. We're using that to get the configuration, and we just wrap that configuration with native Wind because this app uses native Wind. Great. Now into the app layout TSX. This is where we call Sentry init. And in order to initialize the SDK, we just call Sentry init. We pass in the DSN, and we need the DSN in order to tell the SDK, once you capture all of these measurements and stack traces and errors and whatever, send them here, right? And as I mentioned, you can put Sentry on your own server. That means your Sentry is going to live somewhere else, right? So it's not going to be at sentry.io. It's going to be on your domain. And this is like the org and the project and everything. So you'll get a DSN, and that's what DSN is. This is how we enable traces. We'll talk about them. Definitely don't do 1.0 in production, just for development. We enable user interaction tracing. We enable native frames tracking. We send default PII. Just want to get it out there. You can configure this to be false if you want to. Yeah, we enable logs. Let me just get something here. We enable logs, and this is the logs feature in Sentry. We enable session replay. We set all of those sample rates to 1 so that we can send session replays. And then we have the integrations. The integrations are basically a way for you to plug in and out features out of your Sentry SDK. So I want the navigation integration, which is defined here. And what this does is basically every time a user navigates to a certain page, this will automatically instrument all of those pages and show all of those pages, screens, not pages. Show all of those screens as actual screens in Sentry so that we can debug how they performed, their performance. And we also want to enable the time to initial display mobile vital. Okay, and then for the replay, we just add the mobile replay integration. And I've purposefully set the mask all text, images, and vectors to false so that we can see clearly what's going on. But these are these are true by default. So that means when you see the replay, you'll see everything's going to be masked up. I don't want to get too much into this because we'll actually see all of this. And the last one is just a console logging integration. And this takes all of the console.log, console.warn, and console.error from our code base, and it sends them as logs by default so that we don't need to refactor our application. This is super, super cool so that you can get started with logs immediately. All right, that's it. We wrap the root layout with sentry.wrap, and we also additionally have the error boundary defined that looks like this. It's a simple component. We get children root props, and we wrap it with sentry.errorBoundary. We can define our own error fallback, style it as we want, but that's pretty much it. And yeah, this is how we set up Sentry in a React Native application. Now, since we did some searches, since we did mess around with the application a little bit, we have generated enough data that we can actually go in and start looking at it. Okay, so if I go to Sentry.io, I'm going to go to Insights and Mobile. This is basically the Mobile Insights overview page, and it's going to give me, like at a glance, some useful information for my application. Like for example, the average warm starts. I think this is average TT IDs by default, but I changed it, right? You can change these widgets. So yeah, time to initial display. On average, it gives you a nice little chart to see where you are, right? You can see that the average TT ID is 2.24. We definitely need to work on that because it's above the acceptable threshold. Then we have 2.30 here. Then we have a spike here at 2.99. Maybe something happened. And mind you, this is the average. That means there are more than 2.99 values. Right? This gives us a glance. Okay, is everything okay with our app or not? If we see spikes or just straight up increases, we need to work on that. Then we have the average cold starts. You can change this to warm starts as well. Transactions per minute, which gives you an idea of how much people are using your app, how many people are using your app. P50, P75, and then we also have a table with all of the transactions. These are not screens, these are screens plus something else, which we can define ourselves, like manually. But once you see navigation here, this is a screen. This is the analysis screen, which is basically this screen right here. When we open the Japanese Oreo, this is the analysis screen, right? And for every row, we have like the percentage of slow frame rates, frozen frame, users, and time spent. Time spent, not like how much time users spent on this screen, but how much time the application spent rendering this screen and in the last 4 days, as you can see. So in the last 4 days, 4 minutes were spent rendering analysis screen across all of the users, right? But this doesn't actually tell us which screen is not performing well, right? We can see all of these things, maybe like slow frame rates, etc. But we are interested in the mobile vitals. That's what we want to see. Now we get to see only screens and not like custom transactions that we can start. Only screens here, and we get to see cold start and warm start per screen, the slow, frozen frame rates and delay, TTID and TTFD, which is like time to full display, and also screen loads to see how many times that screen has been loaded. Again, in the past 4 days. Maybe we want to see in the past 7 days. Well, that's going to change all the values. So you get to pick what time frame you're interested in. But looking into this, we get to see that we only have cold start and warm start from the index. All right, that's because I opened the app, and the app, the first screen is the index screen, and I haven't opened the app on a different screen. I haven't implemented a deep link, so it opens right into the edit profile, etc. That's why this is the only data that I have. And always make sure that you have your platform selected in the top right. Okay, we have Android over here and iOS over here. I've only been running this on the iOS simulator, but your data is split between the two platforms. All right, so we can see 199 cold start on the index, 157. Let's actually see why is it 199 on average. We click into the index screen. Again, we have the average cold start, but this time it's only for the index screen if we had values for the other screens, and also a device distribution to give you an idea of, the device tiers. Like high means it's an expensive device, medium, low. These are just like the general device tiers. And there's also unknown, of course. Down here, we get to see individual spans, and I'll talk about spans, but individual spans that contribute the most to the cold start. And this is because we see it by spans. If you want to see that, great. We can click by event and actually see individual uploads or like individual cold starts, and actually zero in and debug it. So let's just go ahead and pick one of these. Let's try this one. Once we do that, we can see the trace view. And this is that tracing debugging technique that I mentioned at the very beginning that lets you basically do anything. It's super, super powerful. So the trace view is like a diagram that tells you what happened and where all of this time got spent. These are called spans, and they're usually like the smallest unit of work. We get all of this by default when we just install the SDK. These are automatically instrumented for us, but I'll also show you later how we can manually instrument and measure parts of our code. But yeah, this is the individual app started by this user, which was me, with this user ID, again, which was me, using iOS 26.0.1. This was the release 1.0.0. This matters a lot if, for example, your users are experiencing crashes on an older release, and you've already fixed that in a newer release, there's much you can do about that. You just like wait for them to update to a later release. And it was caused in the development environment, so that's why it's going to be super slow. But yeah, 27th of October, 6:44 p.m. UTC. This is literally a very specific user opening the app in a very specific time on a very specific device. So we get to see what happened. Okay. So let's see. The first span that we see at the top is UI.load index. It took 6.13 seconds. And this is the time distribution of those 6.13. The cold start was 6.06. Then we also had a navigation processing, basically processing navigation dispatch to screen index mounted. That's when React processes the navigation to the index screen. This is when React mounts the root layout, 36 milliseconds. And there's also a GET request to localhost 3001/API/profile that took 62 milliseconds, right? So that's where the time went. And we can see that majority of the time is spent on the cold start. If we expand that, we get to see UIKit init to JS exec start. That means we are booting up the iOS application, the UI application main boots up. It sets up the UI kit. It sets up the bridge with the React Native code, and there's it also loads a bunch of the native modules that either our code base added or Expo added, etc. So 4.78 seconds went into that. After this was done, we went and proceeded with the JS bundle execution before React root. This is when the JavaScript part of the app started executing before it started executing our code base, right? And if we zoom in, we can see that when this span stops, this span starts, which is the mounting of the root layout. And once we have mounted the root layout, we executed, or like we invoked that GET request to the API to fetch the user's profile. And this happens in the index screen. If I show you index, you will see where that happens. There we go. This is the index screen. We have a hook use profile, and this use profile implements the user profile, or implements the GET request over here. There we go. On line 8, we have a use effect with the load profile, and load profile is literally that, yeah. Await profile API, GET profile. So this is that HTTP request, and we didn't do anything about it to set it up. It's just all there automatically because the Sentry SDK automatically picks up on things like this, on like HTTP requests, on UI interactions, or any lifecycle events that Expo gives us, or React gives us, or React Navigation gives us. This is all out of the box. And what's cool about it is I can actually go in, expand on this, and see what happens on the server as well, if there's anything we can do about it, right? So this is all React Native land, but from this point on, we are in Express.js land. So this is the span when we intercepted that API profile HTTP request. Then we invoke the get profile use case, which is a function for business logic. And then we even went on and executed this SQL query against the database to fetch the user profile, right? So this gives you an idea if for example, the HTTP request was not 62 milliseconds, but it was like longer, you actually can figure out where all of that time is spent, and can you do anything about it. If there was like a DB query that was very long, you can look into optimizing it. But it's going to show up here because this is not going to be 3.39. It's going to be pretty substantial amount of it, of course, depending on your app. But if it's suspicious, you know where it is because of this, because of the way that the trace view represents the data visually. You get to see where time is spent during that specific request. Okay, so yeah, this is in this scenario we can see that because we're running in the environment, in the development environment, there isn't really anything we can do to speed this up, even though it's like 6 seconds. That means I'm running it on a simulator, right? And nothing is compiled, nothing is built, and on top of that, we add a bunch of dev time resources like the hot module replacement, the dev menu that Expo adds to your app, all of these extra bits that don't get to be executed or like invoked during production when you actually build the app and put it on the store. But yeah, we actually see where all of this time went. And this is all automatic. I just ran the wizard and got this. If I look into the other screens, I'm gonna look into something similar to this, but with just different stuff. Maybe there's not a GET request, but there's a different thing happening on that screen. I get to see how long it takes, right? So talking about automatic, there's always the manual. There's always a way for you to manually instrument parts of your application to measure how long something took. And in our application, one thing that I want to make sure that is fast is the search. If we do Frank and Beans, searching products. So this can take a long time, especially if we also implement a backend. This can take a long time. And I want to make sure that I keep my eye on it. Okay. So and that's exactly what I did. If I go to the search screen here, we are going to see this line right here, line 56, Sentry.startSpan. These were spans, as I mentioned, like all of these individual like rows in this diagram, in this chart, are called spans. So we get to start our own custom spans. And this one is going to be called search products, right? Because this is in the handle search function. So we are calling this search products. The operation is going to be function. And we also attach some attributes to this span. Frank was eating those beans. Yeah. Frank and beans. So how do we see this? It's not a good idea to go through all of these screens and actually search for them, or like go into the search screen and see where a search happens, because I can go to the search screen and not do a search. So right, not every instance or not every trace is going to contain these search products. If I want to go and see only the search products traces, I can go to explore and traces. This is where I make my cuts in the data. And I'm going to say, instead of just manually instead of like walking screen to screen, I can just say span. The description is going to be search products. And it's going to show up here. Yeah, there we go. Search products. So these are all of the times where users of our application use the search product feature, and therefore the span got created, right? We can see that there's a one 2 minutes ago, Frank and Beans, one from 22 minutes ago, one from 23 minutes ago, 2 hours ago, 19 hours ago, days ago. You can go long. So let's see someone. Let's see the Frank and Beans, the last one that we did. If we click into it, this is a different trace view, but we can see search products here. It took 3.32 seconds, right? This has happened on the React Native side. There's the HTTP client in React Native shooting off that GET request. Here's the Express.js receiving the GET request. The search products use case got invoked, this function, and then another HTTP client. Well, this shouldn't have been HTTP. This is manually instrumented by my side. Sorry about this. This is just like a plain function. It's the products repository, and the products repository does a post request on search.openfoodfacts.org/search. You can see that actually that's where all of the time was spent, right? Can we do something about that? No, this is a third-party service that we're using. We can speed up what's not ours. If we were doing something with caches, we would have caught that here. If we were doing, if the post was fast, but we did some data stripping or filtering or ordering, something like data intensive like that, we would have seen it here. But in this case, again, oh, I don't want to go back. In this case, all of the time is spent in uh, waiting for openfullfacts.org to reply back with the products. And what products are we talking about? Let's see. I mentioned that I added a bunch of attributes, right? We added the search query under ATTR, short for attributes, under the query, and the page number under the page. And the way that this works is you basically wrap your regular ordinary code with this start span API, and in the second argument you get a callback, and that's where your code lives. All right, if I didn't have a start span right here, then this try catch would have been at this level. But and I had that there. I just went back, wrapped it with a start span, and there we go. I have custom instrumentation. But we also get a span here, as you can see in the arguments. That means we can attach more attributes and set the status and do more stuff to the span later on. Okay, so once we awaited for the search products function, what I did was I added two more attributes. What was the total count of the results from that response, and a boolean that says has more if the product.length is greater than 0. All right, so that's how we add more attributes even later we get the after we get the results back. Of course, if we have a try and catch, we should make sure to capture the exception to Sentry, because it's if something happens in this try catch block and we don't capture the exception, we won't receive it in Sentry. So we make sure that we need to do that. And of course, if it fails, we can also set the status to with code number 2, which is like fail, and pass on the message to why it failed. This is all going to be super important for us to debug failures. But right now, I'm only going to be focused on looking into the attributes. All right, so we mentioned, let me just try to go back without triggering the back. Oh, this is not good. All right, we are under the search products span. If we scroll down on the right side here, we're going to see all of the attributes here. And there's our ATTR group. Let me actually scroll a bit more. There we go. There's our attributes group. Has more is set to true. The query was Frank, because that's when the search got triggered, right? It was debounced and I didn't type fast enough. So I just searched for Frank. We're looking at page 1. Okay, because if I scroll down and lazy load page 2, page is going to be 2. If this is important for us to debug issues that are connected to the search, well, this is how we know what page we were on. And the total count was 944 products that contain Frank in the name. Okay, so this is how you can add custom attributes to all of your spans, to the spans that you're working with. Okay, and these are going to help you debug things, debug issues that might happen, or even just like help you reproduce this locally, right? If this was very slow and I can't reproduce it, I'll see, okay, the user searched for Frank. Well, I'm gonna boot up my app and search for Frank as well, and maybe I'll get to reproduce the issue. From that point on, I'm set, right? So yeah, custom attributes, these are really important for debugging. So this is another way of instrumenting on top of the automatic things that we get, like the HTTP post and the database query that we saw earlier. We can also add custom spans, which are also super important. Okay, I do see some questions, but I also see Serge holds the fort. Thank you, Serge. All right, let's just proceed. Okay, we saw mobile vitals and we saw traces. We saw how the trace view visually tells us where all the time is spent so that we can have an idea if we can optimize it or not. And if we can, what should we optimize? Should we optimize a database query, or maybe it's a custom function that filters some results from a third party API, etc. With tracing, both automatic and custom, you get to see where your time is spent in your app, both in your app and backend, for that matter. Okay, great. Now, uh, I want to show you how you can debug errors in your application, and we're gonna go into the second part of our workshop, which is debugging errors. Let's say that I'm still on keto, but I always get this: you cannot consume this product, and here's why: because it's not keto friendly. And I know, and also for those of you who have been on keto, you can't eat anything, right? It's not fun. That was like the worst time in my life when I was doing keto. So you know what? No, I'm just gonna like, I'm not doing keto anymore. I want to eat. I need to eat. And suddenly I don't have any allergies or dietary restrictions. No, just like give me all the food that you can give me. Great. I'm not allergic. I don't have any dietary restrictions. Let's get some beans and franks. And there we go. We caused an error in the app. Of course, you all know this screen, and the screen is going to happen in development, but this is what your user is going to see. Oops, something went wrong. We have been notified and we're working on a fix, right? Because we have Sentry installed. Um, we have been notified. I'm immediately going to get an email saying the app crashed, and here's all the information possible that can help you debug this issue. All right, so let's actually go in and see it. This was that fallback screen in the Sentry error boundary that we defined. You can, of course, customize this. It's a simple React component. Okay, when we go to the issues page here, we can see a list of all of the issues and crashes and everything that happens in our application. And here's that one from 52 seconds ago when we triggered this crash. It was last seen 52 seconds ago, but it was first seen 4 days ago. So it's like a few days old error, right? We have a question by Enes. Does Sentry error boundary also catch the native errors? Honestly, I don't know. We should look into that. But it's definitely going to catch the React native errors, and I think it might also catch the native errors because they will probably get triggered from a specific React component, let's say. And if that native error bubbles up, it's going to be caught by that, by the React boundary. But yeah, we do have native errors as well, support for native errors. But for this workshop, I did not add one, so I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You have to try it in your app. But okay, let's proceed. Last seen 2 minutes ago, first seen 4 days ago. It's a few days old error. It happened 10 times and it affected 2 users. So 2 users are angry right now, right? Let's get in there and see what we see, what we need to, what we can see. First, there's like a little timeline that gives us an idea of how many times this error happened and when. And then we also see the tags. Tags help you um, make decisions, right? So this was 50% of these times, like 5 times. It happened on an iPhone 17 Pro, and then the rest happened on an iPhone 16e. This was the operating system. This was the release, the app release. This was the environment, 100% development. This is not a real app. So yeah, and these are like all of the tags. These are automatic. I didn't set them, but you can also set custom tags. What if, for example, you set a tag that told you the type of user that's the that caused this issue. Maybe it was like um an enterprise user or a pro user or a free user. Is that going to help you make a decision? Yeah, probably, right? Or prioritize the fix. In that case, it's definitely a good idea to add a tag, and you'll see it here, and you'll also see the distribution of the types of users, right? So tags are at the top. If we scroll down, we get to see the stack trace. And in the stack trace, we have two chain exceptions. The first one is the React error boundary type error. And this basically represents the component hierarchy from the component where the error happened. Okay, so we have the analysis screen here. The analysis screen is wrapped with the main layout TSX. The main layout is wrapped with the profile provider. The profile provider is wrapped with the Sentry error boundary, and the Sentry error boundary is wrapped or is included in the main underscore layout.tsx, the root layouts. Okay, so this was the component hierarchy where the error happened. But below this, we have the type error, which was the cannot read property to uppercase of undefined. So that's the actual error. We're calling to uppercase on something that is not defined. If we open this up, we'll see. All right, so it's the analysis.tsx file, line 238. There's two uppercase, and look at that. The diet is probably undefined. Well, we set it to none, and we currently here know that we set it to none. But when you receive an error of a user that did something that you don't know, well, you're not going to know how they got to the point where the diet was undefined. But now you actually know that the diet is the one that's causing the issue. Well, let's actually see how the user got to that point. All right. First, we have a suspect commit. This commit from 7 days ago, titled proper error boundary, actually touched this part of the code. So maybe this is the commit that introduced the error. You can click into it. You can see what the commit changed. Maybe you'll get an idea, right? But for now, we are going to, I'll talk about session bleep later. We're going to talk about the breadcrumbs and how to use the breadcrumbs to debug or to get an idea of how the user got there. All right. This is just like a preview of the breadcrumbs. If we click on the view 96 more, here it is. All of the breadcrumbs, all of those basically little actions, intentional or not, that the user took, and also the app reported that got us to this point. There's a whole bunch of UI lifecycle and device events like keyboards did hide notifications. So that's when the keyboards got hidden at this time. And there's another batch of UI lifecycle event. There's a touch that happened here. There's a console searching for Frank with a space. And there we go Frank and beans. So this is when we finished the search query. We did the API requests to search for that. We got the results back. We found 400 products, but 944 in total. Another transaction was created here, and this is the ID. You can look it up if you want to. What else? Again, there's a search again. There's a bunch of images are now going to show up here. But we also, the good thing is that we can also filter all of these out. So I'm going to get debug, navigation, transaction, and only look at the debug and error levels. How about that? This is going to give us like a better timeline of, remove the noise, basically. All right. We searched for Frank and beans. We found the products. We selected one of the products. And these are just all console logs in my code base. Just console logs, and they get converted into breadcrumbs as well. Loading product details for barcodes. Okay, product loaded. Starting AI analysis. Complete. And then somewhere in here, did I enable the navigation? I did enable the navigation. It should have showed up here. Maybe info. Okay, there we go. somewhere around here, we should see the the user going to the, where is it? The user going to the analysis. Okay, there we go. From search to analysis. And then this is info, and this is still info. Okay, I can't get rid of these UI lifecycle ones. But from analysis, we go back to search. We navigate to the index screen. And then we navigate to edit profile. All right, so we tried Frankenbeans. We went back to the search, back to index. Now we're going to the edit profile. And then on the edit profile screen, we were changing the diet from keto to none. That's a big hint, right? Something about the diet. So maybe none is being handled as undefined, although none is a none, right? It's still a value. It's not that there's no value. It's an explicit value. It's keto, it's vegetarian, it's none. But maybe our backend is not handling it as such. But this gives us a hint that we can get. And then what happens later? Updating profile updated successfully. So the backend received that. We went back to index, back to search, selected product with these barcodes, navigated to analysis page, and this is where the crash happened. Cannot read property to undefined, to uppercase of undefined. Okay, so this is a timeline of the error happening, right? We saw that the user went to Frankenbeans. They really wanted Frankenbeans, but they were on keto, so it didn't allow them. They went back from analysis to search, to edit profile, updated the profile, did the keto to none change, and that's when the error happened. If we did that locally, we would have, reproduced the same error. But as you saw, this is like a lot of reading. We we can do better, right? Breadcrumbs did tell us that, and you also get breadcrumbs out of the box. There is nothing. You don't need to enable anything. You don't need to pay for additional stuff. You get breadcrumbs. That's it. All users get this. But if you enable session replay, you get to actually see an actual like screen recording, in a way. It's like screenshots, periodical screenshots of the user session. So I can go here into session replay, see where the error is down here on the timeline, and actually go just like before that and hit play. If I zoom in, you can see the application here, and you get to see how the users were using the application. At the beginning of the workshop, I mentioned that I put all of the mask values to false, so nothing is masked. If you want, I'll show you how you'll get how the session replay looks like with all the masks turned on. So there's not going to be any text or images; it's just going to be rectangles. But it'll still give you an idea of where they are. All right, there we go. We're going to the analysis screen. This is what the user saw. This is what the user got back. You cannot eat Frankenbeans. The user is gonna click back, so we're back on the search screen. All right, and there's the top left corner. There we go. We just tapped on the settings. They're going to edit profile. They're switching from keto to none. Nuts and shellfish are gonna be disabled. There we go. No low sugar. You see how you basically have like a little screen recording of how the user used the app just before the error happened. And there we go. All right, so this is much better than the breadcrumbs that we saw. Well, what's cool about it is that you can also put your trace, and let me actually hide my camera so you can see this much better. You can put your trace. Oh, that is not what I wanted to hide. Can I hide again? There we go. You can actually see what happens on the back end. If you zoom in right here, there's a timeline. This is what happens on the back end. There's a put API profile here. There's the analysis screen, and there are two requests to get the API profile and get API products star. It's obfuscated. And this is what happened on the back end. This is what happens on the screen. You get like a full view of of everything. You get a full view of the error happening in on the user's device. So that's really cool. It's really useful for reproducing errors and stuff like that. So you get to see um, just like everything. But besides this is also synchronizing the logs. Remember that we had the console log um, integration that converted all of the console logs to logs. Well, if you click on the logs, we can actually see all the console logs here, right? And these are also synchronized with the timeline. So if I click here, there's that line, that purple line that tells us where we are in this replay. And this is that changing diet from keto to none event that was logged out. This is just like a console log, basically. It's a console log changing diet from keto to none. And I'll show you if we go to the settings, edit profile, changing diet. There it is. Console.log, changing diet from whatever it is to the new value, like what it used to be, and then the new value from keto to none in this case. Updating profile, right? The session replay points to the same thing, but we can actually see it in good resolution now of how the event happens. So it's definitely something about the, changing the diet from keto to none. We can take this off with the backend team if we wanted to, but before we actually do that, in order to properly prioritize this bug fix, we should see how many times this happens. How many times do people change diets from whatever to none, right? Because if they do that a lot of times, then we should expect a lot more errors, right? We like the errors that we saw were not that many, 10 crashes divided by like 2 users. But what if like the big wave is about to hit us? What if there's a lot of people that change their diet but still haven't gotten to that screen yet? Well, that's why we get logs. So if I go to explore logs, I can search here across maybe all of my projects if you wanted to, but I'm going to stick to my React Native project in the last 7 days. I'm only interested, not on these, but I'm only interested to see changing diet from whatever to none. So I can say message does not contains, but is, because I'm going to use some regex magic, changing diet from star to none. If I hit enter, 7 matches. 7 matches in 11,000 logs. So there's mostly from keto to none. There's a vegan to none. There's a vegetarian to none. But these are like number of times where users changed from a specific diet to none. And it happened 7 times in the last 7 days, right? Imagine this was like 7,000, for example. That'll give you a good idea if this is something that you should really get to fixing, right? Because you might have reacted fast on the email that you get from Sentry that you have a crash in your application, but like there's 7,000 potential crashes that are waiting. So yeah, you can use logs to basically get answers to questions like this, right? This is not a crash. Changing diet is not a crash. It's not a significant thing that made me turn it into a transaction or a span. I could have, right? And then I could have done that, but I didn't. So it's just, I just want this log. Like this happened in the app. It's nothing significant. We're just changing the diet from keto to none or from whatever to whatever, right? And then I can go into the logs, filter out based on this, and see how many people changed their diets from whatever to none. Okay, if the changing the diet to none is what's causing the issue in the first place, well, This is how much it happened, and probably there's a there's a big wave of crashes coming our way. So let's get to fixing. All right, so now we know what it is, right? We through breadcrumbs we identified. Let's go back to breadcrumbs. Through the breadcrumbs, we identified that it is something about the diet. The stack trace told us that the diet is undefined because we were trying to invoke to uppercase on something that is undefined. We jumped into the breadcrumbs and we saw that there was a log there, like there's a little breadcrumb changing diet from keto to none. Okay, there's something about the diet. We did see it in action as it happened, or like exactly how it happened through the session replay recording here. We also saw how many times it happened. I'm just gonna go back because I don't want to type that regex again. We also saw how many times it happened. So this is not how many times the app crashed, no, how many times the diet was changed to none, so that we know how many more errors can we expect once the users start going to the analysis screen. And this was a lot, right? Like going through breadcrumbs and doing all of this investigation about a single error does take time. I mean, if you're from the older generations like I am, then great. That's sounds like a regular Monday to us. But we got AI now. We can get the robot to do all of this investigation for us, so that we can move on faster in our sprints, right? So if you go back to not traces, I'm gonna go back to the error, and uh, we're gonna use Seer. I've already done this, but I'm gonna start over so you can see how everything uh, happens. But what Seer is Sentry's AI debugger. It is taking all of these information, all of this data in consideration, like both the stack traces, the breadcrumbs, the logs, and there's also like the trace preview here. It also has access to the trace, so it's going to see what happened on the backend as well and what DB query got executed. It's going to consume all of that and do the investigation for us and give us a root cause. This is what happens. Give us a solution. Here's what you can do. And even go ahead and open a PR on our repository. Okay. So I'm going to open Seer and I'm actually going to start over because I've already done this. I'll show you this now later. Start root cause analysis. This is how it's going to look like when you open Seer. I'm going to start root cause analysis, and there it is. It is ingesting Sentry data. It's going to figure out the root cause, and it's going to give us, this is what happens. And it's going to be much faster than us, okay? Because it's a robot, right? It's great at ingesting text. And everything that we saw so far was predominantly text. We get logs, we get breadcrumbs, we get the trace data, the stack traces. It's all basically texts. So we'll give this a few seconds to figure out what's wrong, and then we'll ask it to generate a solution for us. Okay, I found the issue. Let me examine the API. Now I need to check the backend API, right? So it's going into the backend now. It's reading our code, looking at analysis.tsx in that repo. Of course, I did go and configure Seer, but it's super easy to configure it. Once you enable Seer, it's going to ask you to link your GitHub repository to the project within the Seer settings, and that is like very easy to do. We have a docs folder for that. Let's see. Let me trace through the same issue more carefully. See, I'm looking at the breadcrumbs and logs. I see that the profile response is blah, 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 192 bytes. Let's check what minimal profile should be. See, it's like taking things into consideration. And it's dropping a bunch of stuff here of like what it scanned and what it went through. It went through the breadcrumbs, this specific error, these blocks or ranges from the analysis.tsx file, index, profile repository, which is on the back end. It went into the schema.ts to see the database schema as well. If we allow null values or we have that non-null, what's the name I'm looking for? The word I'm looking for, constraint, database constraints. Yeah, so it's like taking all of the things into consideration. And once it's done, it's going to give us, okay, here's what's happening. We'll ask it to the problem. Okay, there we go. Root cause. Silent and, oh, wait, I can't keep up. But yeah, it's going to give us a good. We can always like add more context and say, oh, but you're missing this. Oh, um, you're actually not looking into this part right here. So you can always add more context to it, and it's basically like talking to any LLM out there. All right. The backend profile mapping returns a null for missing diet, which frontend consumes and attempts to call to uppercase on. And here's how it happened. The user creates profile but selects none for diet, resulting in no diet data being sent. The profile is created in the database with a null value for the diet column. Navigation to analysis screen triggers the profile data loading. Backend repository maps database null to response, but incorrectly returns null instead of undefined. Frontend receives the profile object where the diet property is explicitly null. Analysis screen attempts to render the diet text using unsafe non-null assertions, and we saw that here with the exclamation marks right here. And it's going to continue, and then the type error cannot read property to uppercase is thrown. All right, so it did understand what the issue was. Well, go ahead then, find us a solution, right? And oh damn, I actually have my camera on and you didn't see me pressing that button, this button right here, find solution. I pressed the find solution button, and now it's going to plan out a whole solution because it has access to our code base, right? It knows about our code base. It's going to generate a little diff, a little git diff for us. Here's how you can fix it, basically. And we're going to go all the way to actually opening a PR on the repo, and I'll open the PR. It's going to be really cool. Okay. So now it's looking at the shared types. Oh, I was going to click that button again. Okay, it's got like 1 to 150. So it's zeroing in on the profile form. Formatting for human. All right, there we go. Convert the null diet values to undefined in the API repository and add defensive rendering checks in analysis screen to prevent to uppercase errors. These are the two things that it wants to for us to do. Like, this is the solution. All right, implement it, code it up, and open a PR for us. Squidward feature me. Okay. Let me fix the backend issue first. The problem is line 136. Look at that. Proper use of AI. Right? All right, so it's replacing the nullish coalescing with an explicit operator when mapping profile fields to undefined. That's something that it came up with. It is doing more digging as we speak. All right, another one. Conditionally render your diet section based on the existence of profile.diet. All right, look at that. These are the changes. All right, so instead of nullish coalescent, we're doing the diet here. This is on the backend, I believe. Yeah, this is in the profile repository in the API project. And this is in the mobile project. So yeah, conditional rendering. If we have diet defined, then only then render this section, the diet section. Great. Does it look good? Yeah. If it doesn't, then I can always like select this and add additional instructions here. Maybe I don't like the way that it handles this part right here. I can say, I don't know, no, do better or something like that. Hold on. But yeah, you can always add more details. Oh, that's a good question. Have you guys implemented an MCP server yet? Yes, we did. mcp.sentry.dev. You can actually use the MCP server in your IDE and trigger Seer from within your IDE and analyze your issues and like I don't know, create projects, create everything. Like, these are all the tools that are available. Yes, yes, we do. And I'm going to drop a link on all of the channels if you want to check it out. All right. Let's say that this looks good. I'm just going to go in and open a draft PR on my repository. This is using the GitHub integration under the hood. Let's go, let's go, let's go. It's going to give us, this is going to turn up into a button that can lead us to the PR. Come on now. It's GitHub Universe. Maybe they're under a big load now. So we can open this PR. There's also an option to check it out locally. So it's going to push to a branch, but it's not going to open a draft PR. But no, I actually wanted to open a draft PR so that we can continue, I don't know, collaborating with the rest of my team and even spin up the AI code review, because we also have that. I can tag Sentry inside of GitHub and tell it to do a code review on my PR. GitHub Universe looks pretty sweet. Yeah, I've seen some photos and I'm like, damn, wish I was there. Come on now. There's not an error happening. Oh, that is not readable. Just close that. Hit refresh. Oh yeah, it's already there. All right, so view PR in Nicola Flazar / AI recipes. If I click here, there's the PR. It's opened by Seer. A nice description telling us what happened, what are we fixing. Here's the issue. You can click into it and it'll take you back to the issue. It's triggered by this user, that's me. And great, right? We have the PR. If you go to the files changed, these are the changes that we saw in the UI, in Sentry as well. And we can, this is a PR now. We can collaborate on it and we can even summon Sentry. Let me actually show you just real quick how that looks like. I have a PR right here on a different repository where I summoned Sentry and told it to, get me code review, and look how it just went crazy. And it said, oh, you know what? This is a critical one. This is not shouldn't happen. This is a detailed analysis. This is a suggested fix for this hunk here. And this is the prompt. If you're using an AI agent to code, just copy paste this into your Cloud Code or into your cursor and tell it to do this, basically. And there are a whole bunch of comments from Sentry, the Sentry IO bot. And it's overwhelming, and I need to go through all of these now. But yeah, I have the data. And I summoned it just by saying, where is it? Just by saying at Sentry review. gave me a little eye, and it just went off. All right, um, let's go back. And let's say that, yeah, we have the PR. If we wanted to, if we're happy with this, if we're happy with this change, we can just like merge it, or if not, we can keep talking to it. Doesn't matter. It's great. Now we have Seer. Now we have uh, AI fixing the bugs for us. And if you don't want to do this all the time, like for every bug manually press it, you can actually enable automation for your projects. Enable Seer automation, and this is how that looks like. I can automatically trigger Seer on issues like no, like it is now, or only on the most actionable issues, which are like the 2% of the issues. On highly actionable and above, on moderately actionable, minimally, or all issues, which is like super cool. You can just like basically trigger Seer every time an issue comes in. So if I do only on most actionable, let's say only on like the 2% that are actually actionable, you can do something about that, or there's enough data, or that's up to Seer. Then I can also configure what is the stopping point going to be. Should it just find the root cause of the error? Should it go in and think of a solution? Should it also go and code up the changes, the little git diff that we saw in the UI? Or should it go all the way and open a pull request for us? So if I select pull request, that means every time an issue happens, within minutes, Seer is going to open a PR on our repo. So like, I don't know, tomorrow when I wake up and I'll check my GitHub repo, I'll just have a bunch of pull requests by Seer that I need to review, and those are going to be my bug fixes, right? And I can do that from my phone if I'm skilled enough to do a code review and see all the changes and like merge them from the phone. So by the time I go to the office, I will even have a little test IPA built so that I can test it out. All right, and this works not just for React Native, but for like all of the projects in our that we support, all of the frameworks. All right, um, that was Seer, and what I want to show you now is really cool, and I want to talk about uh, size analysis, and I want to summon Max. If Max can join us. Max, are you here?
Yes, hello.
Oh, how's it going?
Good. How y'all doing? Very cool Seer demo.
Thank you. All right, Max. Yeah, introduce yourself to the audience.
Hey everyone, I'm Max Topolsky. I'm a product manager at Sentry, and I came over in the Emerge Tools acquisition. For those of you who I don't know might have seen Emerge Tools, we were pretty popular on Twitter. We're very popular for like breaking down apps and where their size is coming from. And size analysis is one of the tools we're actually building into Sentry, and we have a cool little demo to show off now.
Awesome. All right, thank you, Max. So this is size analysis, right? This is the build details page. Tell us about this. What is going on here?
Yeah, so right now we're actually looking at a version of the Shopify app that was pulled from the App Store. Nope, is my audio not great? Looks like maybe one of the chats. Let's see if I can get that bit better. But
no, it's actually good.
Oh,
Henri
okay,
asks
cool.
if is this AM radio. This is AM radio.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, no video today. I got you. But yeah, so this is the size analysis for the Shopify app. So what you're seeing is the overall size, as well as broken down where that size is actually coming from. So we can do things like break down the main.js bundle and see the different parts of the size and how big the JS bundle actually is. We can also break down the native code. Right here, what Lazar is doing is he's typing in, and we can see one of the things, just to look at this one that's popping out, is they actually have debug info in this main.js bundle. And if you scroll down a bit, you'll see these view insight details where we're telling you how you can actually make the app smaller. In one of these is removing Hermes debug info. So basically, this is debug info that can be used to symbolicate a crash. But if you're using a crash reporter like Sentry, and you're uploading your symbols to Sentry, you don't actually need this in production. So here's about 12 megs of size that's doing nothing for a user, but it's still actually being shipped into prod. There's some other insights about, stripping binary symbols, which is very similar, but that's the iOS native symbols that get shipped in an app. There's optimizing images as far as how you can compress them or change them to a HEIC, which is Apple's format to reduce some size. And there's a bunch of different insights for different types of apps. This works on iOS, this works on Android. It doesn't matter if it's a React Native app. At the end of the day, what you're uploading is an XC archive or an AAB.
Awesome. This is really cool. So you're basically getting suggestions right out of the box. Here's something you can do to lower the size of your application. It's really cool.
Mm-hmm. And this works. So how this would work is part of your CI workflow, where you're uploading builds to us and you're getting a status check on pretty much as if you want it every single commit, so you can make sure that extra size isn't sneaking into the app without you knowing about it.
Awesome. All right, here's that assets. Let's see. There we go. Here's that assets folder. I'm assuming we're gonna see some images in there. Oh, if I can use the touchscreen, the touchpad. All right, I lost my way. There we go, actually. Yeah, a whole bunch of assets here. All right, this was the build details, right? But we can also compare builds. You mentioned that we can put this on a CI/CD and have it ready on a rolling basis, right? And tell us what changes. You can like go into the build comparison here, right? And like see how this current build compares with the one from before.
Yeah, and so this is what you would see, this view you're about to see. Maybe do the one on the bottom, because that seems to be the biggest size diff, so that might be the most interesting. So if you hit compare builds up at the top, we'll go and we'll see everything that changed between these two builds. So in this case, this is between two, it looks like major version changes, but we see a 6 megabyte increase, and it'll show you everything that was modified, removed, or added. Right now, this is just a table diff, but there's a lot of other diff views that we have that we're excited to ship. Like I said, this is a sneak peek at what's coming out soon. So we have a lot of goodies to add here that we're very excited about.
Nice. Yeah, this is giving you a really good overview of what happens. Here's like the Black Friday globe. It was like removed, so 840 kilobytes were relieved, but then a bunch of stuff were added as well. So you get to see a really nice bill of changes between these two builds. It's awesome. This is like really good. Awesome. Thanks, Max. Yeah, this is coming next week in beta, correct?
Yes, we'll be dropping some announcements soon on the various social channels, both on Sentry's Sentry social channels as well as the old Emerge tools, if anyone was following that as well. So very excited to finally get this out and inside a Sentry.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Max. Yeah, this is basically the end of the workshop. This is all I had to show you for today. We do have a few minutes until the end, so let's get some questions rolling. You can answer them live. Yeah, if not, as I mentioned, this is recorded, so you can go back on our YouTube channel and preview some of these parts, because I believe this was a pretty data heavy workshop. There was a lot of talking, there was a lot of showing stuff, but yeah, if you have any questions, now is the time. If not, find me anywhere. Find me on Twitter or LinkedIn. Send me a message, and I'll try my best to explain or answer your questions. All right, there we go. How much overhead is Sentry adding to a React Native app? This is a good question, and I don't know if I can like answer it with kilobytes, the number of kilobytes. Max?
Yeah, I can actually jump in a little bit. So I don't know off the top of my head for the React Native app. Also, it's going to be a different number for Android and iOS. But one of the things Emerge does, and that we will be, or sorry, Emerge, size analysis for Sentry, got to get that right in my head now, is you can actually upload SDKs as well. And so we will actually be able to soon, when you ask that question, there will be in forms of kilobytes loading type. Yep, got it. So Yeah, we actually do that for the size analysis for SDKs as well. And we'll probably have a public page and start to have links in the docs of exactly what the Sentry SDK will add to different mobile platforms. Off the top of my head, I do not know the answer though, but that is something we will definitely add to our to-do list. And in loading time, I'm not sure if Lazar, you have a better idea. Again, it's very platform dependent, but I don't have the most recent numbers in front of me.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, it also that would also even like depend on the device you're running from. Some devices are faster, some devices are shorter. But what I like to say is that if your performance is bad and you add Sentry, it's not gonna make it that much worse. What you're going to get is um, like answers and information on how you can improve it. So yeah, you get a lot just by adding Sentry. And if you act on the data that the SDK captures for you, it can only be better. Like your performance is only going to be better. But yeah, and you can also even see it in the tracing. Awesome. Let's see some other questions. This is a good question. Alan Anderson, for tracing, do you folks have a gentle incremental guide on how to add manual spans? I feel like it's hard to identify the easy stuff and the most effective, the most ROI places to add spans. This is a really good question. And I also see Surge, and I also see TechSquid TV. These are all my teammates. We should actually do this. And yes, as Kyle, TechSquid TV answered, the MCP server can do wonders for this. Yeah, but what I would say is identify the most the critical flows in your application. For example, if your application is an e-commerce application, and the critical flow would be going through a checkout, right? Identify that and add a span on the most crucial things so that you can have that flow covered, right? That's basically it. Like find out what matters. And with the combination of features, like we have tracing, we have logs, we have breadcrumbs out of the box, session replay, you can combine uh, data from all of them, just like we did now, right? We didn't have a span for changing the diet because it wasn't something significant. It was just like a toggle in the user profile, and there were many toggles, as you saw. But we still covered it with a log that also converted into a breadcrumb. So we still covered it in some way, right? But in terms of tracing, we basically covered the search only as like the most important feature in our application, or the most important functionality. And we saw how like the time breakdown on all of the searches. So yeah, start with the most critical flow of your application and like expand on that. What happens when the device doesn't have network connection? How does Sentry handle the offline and flight modes? Do you need to implement it by yourself, or is that built in by default? Well, let's actually see. I can answer this right off the bat. For web, you do need to implement a custom transport layer that uses indexed DB to like cache and store all of the events it covers, it captures, so that they get released immediately. But let's actually see for React Native. I actually don't know what happens for React Native, and we are going to figure that out right away. Data management. Not feature flags. No, let's actually ask the docs. React Native offline mode If I don't get an answer, I will after this workshop. And oh, there we go. Yeah, supports offline modes for error and event reporting. For Android, they are cached when offline and sent after the application uh, restarts. And for iOS, events are cached when offline and sent after another event is received once the device is back online. Okay, that's for session replay. For Expo and native builds, offline caching are not available in Expo Go. You need to use the EAS build or native release to build these features because it relies on native modules. Can do it in Expo Go. But yeah, there we go. There are some. Let's see. No, ask me to log in. I don't want to go there. Yeah, there's definitely something on caching, and it is, by the looks of it, it's automatic, so you don't have to like enable it um, explicitly. Whereas on web, I know that you do need to explicitly enable it. Okay, hope that answers your question, Robert. Love to see a workshop on best practices for doing custom instrumentation in Sentry, like spans and such. Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, we do have some workshops where we are instrumenting things from scratch. Those are more web oriented, but instrumentation is just, it's a, I don't know, it's a debugging thing regardless of the syntax and language we're using. So we do have already, but it's good to see that more, we need more. No limitations. Is there any limitation on example of how many projects you can run with a Sentry an account? No, unlimited projects. Like if you go to sentry.io/pricing, you get to see a breakdown of all the tiers, and there's unlimited projects even for developers. So number of projects is through and through unlimited. Yeah. Awesome. All right. Yeah, we are even 2 minutes over time, but we did wait for 2 minutes before we started. So right at time. Awesome. I hope everyone likes this. Again, it's recorded. You can go back to our YouTube channel to see the recording. And yeah, hope you like this. For any more pricing, I see there's a person asking what is the pricing for Seer. Yeah, just visit the pricing page. Everything's in there. Everything's in there. Awesome. Yeah, thank you everyone for joining. I'll see you